Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Good morning. It's our tradition to begin by introducing ourselves. I'm Jim.
My name's Christian.
Steve. My name is Gary.
Josh.
Bob.
Jim.
Matthew.
Bill.
Greg. And Brian.
Tim.
Tom. Jack.
Andy.
Mark.
Marvin.
Ron.
Bill.
Tom.
Stephanie.
Welcome, everyone. And online we have Ed, Ocean, Jeffrey, Francis, Harley, John, Daniel, Steve, Michael, Kaikis, and Samuel. So welcome, everyone. And our speaker today, we're happy to have Melvin Escobar. He's a core teacher at the East Bay Meditation Center, licensed psychotherapist, and a certified yoga instructor. Melvin has walked the path of service for much of his life, drawing on his experience as a queer man of color, born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Having encountered priceless wisdom embodied in Buddhism and yoga, he continues daily to learn the revolutionary potential of body-centered contemplative practices for personal and social healing. You can read his latest article in Lion's Roar magazine, Loving Kindness, May All Beings Be Happy, and visit his website, melvinescobar.com, for more information.
All right. Hi. Thanks. Yeah. I saw your thumbs up, Danielle, all the way from Brazil. Yes? Okay. Yay. That's waving. So your face and so many familiar faces in here. So thank you for being here. Thanking, me and just all the energies, the karma of those actions, inactions, spirits for the land, all the elements that we can be here together. So the topic I have prepared, and not completely, we're cooking together here, is about mudita. So I'll go through the definitions in a moment. Okay, now. so mudita is one of the four Brahma-viharas. So Brahma-vihara in Sanskrit, Pali is the divine abodes. That's one of the translations, and I know many, if not all of you, are familiar with them. Metta, the unconditional goodwill, the unstoppable friendliness. Our local teacher, Anushka, I heard that from her for the first time years ago. And compassion, so karuna. And then mudita, which I feel, and I was digging through mainly Access to Insight. It's a wonderful resource by Bhikkhu Bodhi. He's a wonderful scholar, practitioner, monk, monastic, and still living. He's in his 80s. I think he lives in upstate New York. Bodhi H.I. Bodhi, Bhikkhu Bodhi. And he helped develop a website. So the Access Twin says that he's a Theravadan monk, yeah, so it's in that lineage. And then there's equanimity, yeah, which my really close friend Rene Rivera talked about here a couple weeks ago. And then a couple weeks ago, after that, Joe Good was here, and another living saint, I'll say. And I say that as a kind of, so mudita, this joy, aversion it's purifying of aversion. And so this might be a whole litany of things I'm averse to. But one thing I'm averse to is the way certain religions say that you have to be dead to be a saint. That really pisses me off, yeah, because we have in Buddhism there's this reality, I'll call it, of the bodhisattva, yeah, and I translate that as a living saint. And if we want to, we could do like small b bodhisattva, and I would say that any of us that have come to the path, yeah, of these divine abodes, of building this home for ourselves, for each other, for the world, that we're all bodhisattvas, yeah, that we're living saints. And then there's this capital B bodhisattva, and I would say that those folks, that some of you might be here, that have taken the vows in this Buddhist tradition to be this being that comes back again and again, lifetime after lifetime, until all beings are free. So that's the kind of big B bodhisattva. And I love the way since the first time I read about Buddhism at the ripe age of 13, through Houston Smith, he's passed on, local saint. He lived in Berkeley for his last few years. He had this book called The Religions of Man, that went through all the religions. And he was a wonderful person. And the Buddhism really got my attention, because what I got from it was like there's nothing wrong in terms of like the way we're intending to practice. It's all opportunities to practice. And so on this topic of mudita and the divine abodes in general, that they're the bedrock for the bodhisattva, for us intending to reduce suffering in the world, reduce suffering in our own being. And I do a little shimmy on my shoulders, because one of the main things that I also love about any spiritual path, and most of them, is that reminder of interdependence. So when I say our own being, it's actually interconnected to things that are so much bigger than our this being, this corporal being. So mudita. So there are many, several interpretations of that word. And one of them is unselfish joy. And I'll just say other ones. Appreciative joy, altruistic joy. And the way I see it really written is, it's sort of like this, and through this individualistic Western kind of lens that we live under. It's about, it feels so separate to be like, I'm going to be happy for someone else's happiness. But I think to our ears that kind of logically makes some sense. It's sort of like, oh, well, let me cultivate that in a way. But I think what happens is it feels really separate. And Buddhism was developed in a collectivist culture. So this is the way that since I was preparing to be here to talk about mudita, I was like, what's the way in? Like, if we're not really separate, then how can I practice mudita? And how it feels inauthentic to be like, oh, let me find someone that just like won the lottery or something like separate. And particularly in these times of like so much crisis, or suffering, and so I've been thinking about and I'm not inventing anything. I'm in my studying and reading about mudita, like the actual path of purification is one of the interpretations is actually through aversion, to notice what I'm reflexively pushing away. And reflexively, I say that as a reminder that like there isn't any like that I'm not doing it wrong. And I love that because then it gives me more space, and it's a double edge. Yeah. It gives me more space to be like, oh, this is aversion. It's not my aversion. It's aversion, which is on the spectrum of hatred. Yeah. That there's this reflexive pushing away. And so what I did this morning on the way here on my bicycle, and I'm riding, I'm like, it's so beautiful out. And I'm like, why aren't I feeling happy? Or why, the first thought was like, why aren't there other people outside? They're all, okay, I'm just saying, and these aren't right? It's not I love Buddhism with the no self, right? Like, this is just, these are sensations, these are thoughts coming through me, and I get to notice them. And I thought, like, and I can find the roots of all these things. Yeah, this is a gift of the practice to be like, oh, like that word lazy is like something as an immigrant, as a living under capitalism, that's like one of the main tools of extracting, every little bit out of, our labor. And so I was like, boy, people are just home on their phones and then I just thought, wow, I can see that aversion. And through that, I can find that's the path to joy. And how, I'll just say dangerous it is that one easily can get stuck in, then that could be like the shit colored glasses I'm looking through all of life with, right? And so there was a glimpse of the blue sky. And the weather's so pleasant today. And I love that word, the pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, the Vedana, that term. Because I could say it's pleasant, and then that gives me more space to be not in, like, that I should be experiencing something different than I'm experiencing. And that everything belongs in our practice. So that they're in that moment of aversion, I could see blue sky, and then I'm like, well, I should be really happy. This is like the most perfect weather, and then the shooting and all the things. And then through that, there are these moments of, I will call enlightenment, of joy. You have like, oh, this is this moment, and what a gift that I'm able to experience the I'll say fullness of the moment, and I'm moving my hands because that's another tenet. There's anatta, the other characteristic of anicca, of impermanence. So even that I don't have to grasp and say, okay, this is I have to be happy forever, because if not, then I'm doing something wrong, or there's something wrong with life, or there's something wrong with me, or there's something. A big one is like there's the misanthropy, right? There's something wrong with people, because if people just behaved, or people just drove right, if people just all the things, then there would be this like everlasting happiness and utopia. Yeah. Right. That's a developmental thing I want to talk about in a moment. But just to bring in the third characteristic of dukkha, right? The unsatisfactoriness that provides balance in life. Yeah. And that when I think I have it figured out, that's like another, this greed, hatred, delusion fires of this human mind. And so that, and I think, okay, well, then we just unravel all of the dukkha, and then there'll be maybe you fill in the line, huh? That everlasting happiness that feels like a very adolescent mindset. That was my other thinking around how to think about this full life that we've experienced up to this point developmentally, like where to tap into joy, how babies are bundles of joy, right? They are given, and we all had that. We all had enough care, attention, and the simple, the touch, the other forms of sustenance, and the school-age child from like 5 to 12 of like just the joy of connecting, of running around, of learning, of having. I went to public schools in Los Angeles, and the department. I put my hand over my heart as I talk about the Department of Education, but the philosophy of like that every child can learn and deserves to have education, and so that joy of like, wow, that possibility and all the things that we are learning, the social engagement, and then we start, and then little by little, there's none of those developmental stages are absent of trauma, right? Of interruption, of a freeze, of arrested, of a violation, of dukkha, right? And then there's adolescence, right? All that to say, there's this adolescence, and I think that's where I place in my head where I'm like, well, if everyone was just, it's the kind of Holden Caulfield of it. Like if everyone wasn't phony and just real, and we could just say what's going on, then we would, but I don't even trust that. And because, especially as gay men or queer people, that typical adolescent thing, that's all the things that are happening in that stage. Like so much the joy that comes from sensuality, sexuality gets taken from us, right? Or is demonized, right? Or we're bullied, or we bully ourselves to keep it in a box so that we can survive. Yeah. And then so there's this adulthood phase. Maybe we'll take it to like 64, 65 years old, and that we start to see, I think, I'm just entering my 5th decade, but we have these capacities to start to, I think healing is like integrating these past developmental aspects of this human experience, and then to grieve whatever, to regret whatever, to know that there is no life that doesn't have regrets, and then to enter this, what a lot of the romantic language cultures will call the third phase of life. Yeah. And how someone recently told me how we start to become more distilled versions of ourselves. And all the ways we say, okay, I can't be aversive, like I can't get fired from this job and cuss someone out, or I can't, or it's not being an adult if I'm expressing anger, or so I have to put it here. And then as we enter this third stage, I've heard, I'm speaking humbly, y'all. I mean, I already heard the word dementia like a couple times just this morning walking in here, And so that those defenses start to fall away, all the ways we reflexively compartmentalize things. And so what I'm, with this joy, with this mudita practice, I'm betting on it I'm relying on it, I'm wanting to practice it more so that I might be able to laugh at myself when I forget things, which is so common these days. It's a function of aging, but it's also, there's so much information, right, coming at us. And so how to bring in the joy of, I want to say one of my favorite words in the Buddhist practice is sati, S-A-T-I, of remembering, And I think back to we have to remember to get through school. We have to remember all these, and the very important things, the keys, all the things are, I recently forgot the combination lock and they had to cut off the lock. But the sati is like this intention to remember. And I just love that. I love that we have all found this path. Jim and I were just talking about in Oakland, and there was a Lakeshore Spring Fest yesterday, and the vibes in Oakland are feeling, to me, just really, there's a lot of joy happening there right now. And the sense of, and I ran into someone I hadn't seen, and I love how we say, if you've had an absence for a while. But once we're on the path, we're never off the path. And so that's another source of joy for me. It's like, I can't unsee what I know now, like what those reflections of our Buddha nature, right? These refuges, right? Of the Dharma, of the teachings. Like, how do we, there's no, in moments, I'm like, I wish I could just forget, that dukkha exists, or that it's a thing, or that things change, but that there's a joy of remembering, and there's the remembering, right? The sewing up when we forget, and that coming back again and again that I'm banking on this to be a mudita that will last the rest of my life. And to cultivate it. So how do we continue to cultivate it? So the pregnant pause, so things might pop into our head. And I mentioned one way is to notice the aversion that comes up. The pushing away, what's the point? I think so much of it is in adolescence. So one way I was cultivating it through the sitting practice with us, because this practice was designed, again, as a collectivist thing. And it's so healing to be here with you all and to practice together in Sangha. Like, there's nothing like it. And so while I was sitting here, there's the kind of the Buddha smile, sort of when I used to teach yoga, I would say, "Oh yeah, upward facing lips," like the slight, the slight smile. But I noticed as well, like in the sitting quite often, and I'm a psychotherapist too, I'm like very serious, and that the corners of my mouth reflexively turn downward, because it's like, cause I'm thinking, I'm like, and I'm hearing things, heavy things, and I have the holy life, I have spiritual friends, right? And so we're serious, we're talking about serious things, and as we age, there's so many serious things, right? And so that moment of insight, I thought, okay, yeah, if I turn, and then the crow's feet, I'm like, I could turn those up a little bit as well, because it's just like looking at and so we can't get rid of that aversion. So aversion is like a protection, right? It's a way to protect, and that image of Avalokitesvara, that bodhisattva with the 1,000 hands and the eyes and the hands, so we could see all the suffering in the world. And I think it was like a protection, because again, this is a collectivist practice. None of us are designed to hold the collapsing of democracy, of fascistic forces, like none of us are. It's just cuckoo to think that we can do that, It's just, and I crumble under it. I'm trying not to crumble under it, right. And it's, the word grace is like a word of like, it's grace that we're not completely crumbling under, the weight of, the catastrophes. Yeah. And there's joy in that, right? There's a joy of like this simple, like, wow, somehow we're making it through a day, or, and so how to practice this. So that's this altruistic joy, the joy of service, I don't have another place to say this, but I really miss Jeff, He was someone, the joy came, he was a joyful person, and I ought to say the extremes of mudita are exuberance and envy and jealousy, and so that joy of I just want to bring his name in. He was the person that invited me here. And so these models of joy, and that we can, for those of you that were at his service, there were someone talked about this teaching of like, or a chant of like reaching higher and higher, and may we reach higher and higher. So and so that we can like spread, I would say joy, yeah, and to us, so that feeling Jeff in that way, yeah, I can't even put words to that, like how we tap into that collective level of joy. Yeah, and so this joy, and Jeff was, all about service, right? That was the Ram Dass, teaching, and so the service of like who's serving who, right, is the teaching I take from that there isn't separation, and the kind of the analysis of I think it's important to have even though most of us are too smart for our own good, and that kind of gets us stuck, but like the sort of the analysis of how we can kind of, it's like the feeling sorry for people, or that it's our fault that there's suffering in the world, where it's actually the way the system is, the systems are designed, and how joy is a thawing or melting of those aspects of the system that are dehumanizing, that humanizing each other is an act of joy. And to be clear, I'm going to make this point again, that as I understand the teaching, it is through aversion. It is through seeing the judgments that we have of people. And I short because they're actually parts of ourselves, because in the fullness of humanity, there is no separation, right? So it's aspects of ourselves that are of ourself that we don't love, right? And so that becomes evident when we are coming, again, we're on the path. So we're coming with this intention of humanizing, right? We just are. Yeah. And that's where these other aspects of, I'll call, or I don't know, religion, organized religion, is sort of like that you aren't divine, that you're divine through these intermediaries or whatever. And it's like, no, we're already Buddhas, right? The Buddha nature and divine. And so that the aversion, the fire of the poison of aversion, of hatred, then becomes this melting, right? So that we melt beyond these people's behaviors. Every time I've come here, I've done a Joni Mitchell line. So that there's a Joni Mitchell line in Turbulent and go now, she's like the asshole passing on the right. And so when even the person that is in a lot of anger, and this happened 2 days ago in Oakland, I was driving and someone, Brad, did aborted a California roll through a stop sign. And I thought, you know what? I felt the aversion. I said, I'm going to look at this person with like a firm kindness, fierce compassion, because it was rush hour. They needed to get to work. And so I looked with this intention, this open heart, but firm, I sat in my seat, in my Dharma seat. And then the person looked at me and waved, And so in that moment, there was like, I didn't want to change. We can't change people. That's a form of aversion, right? Change ourselves. These are all human things. But there was a moment. This person just wait, and it was a Turk. I can't think of the word, but like wave, just and then I thought, okay, that moment of humanizing each other. That was joy. Like. Because of the joy then ended up being that it wasn't about, the impact on me was real. That was but then it wasn't really about me, right? It didn't fit into those divots of trauma, of the self-aversion, right? That, the ways that I, push away my full experience, right? The unpleasant stuff. Yeah. So driving mudita. People playing loud music and noticing, and the particular genres of music and the misogyny and then to notice that I can find joy in that there's a Schadenfreude of it. There's that term, yeah. But there's sort of like that. May you experiencing this lead to your joy. Because I don't get to tell people stories, and even though I'm doing that, I have my auditory. That's the main way I take in the world, which is I have my eyes closed right now, just to hear the truth. And sometimes the shadow side of that is I do predatory listening. That I'm listening for the bullshit, or I'm listening for the ways the things to amplify aversion, and then that becomes unskillful. That's a form of, I think, maybe of exuberance, or even, there's some jealousy in there, because then it's like, oh, well, you're feeling joy and I'm not, even because if you're feeling it, then that means there's less of it in the world. Right? And so that goes with all of the divine abodes, that actually the more we practice it, the more we realize it is in the world, So so the more we practice these cultivate, water, pluck the weeds, the abode, right? These homes, these divine abidings, the immeasurables are called. And I think that term immeasurable, the four immeasurable, is because we can't measure them. That's like how those are the operating aspects of the whole system. Yeah. And the goodwill, the kindness touching pain that transforms into compassion, right? And the equanimity. And that you can see, I don't know, say this, that the joy is actually a requisite for equanimity. That there's a joy of being like, wow, I can see the waves going up and down, right? And and not get caught up in them, And quite often we think equanimity is like this is the approach, but the joy melts that coldness, that stone, that indifference that is the shadow of equanimity potentially, and then it gives us the capacity to experience enlightenment. The spark of joy. All right, so I will pause there. So thank you for your attention, and I will open it up to sparkly reflections. Any reflections or questions of how? On topic around mudita, and joy. Any reflections on that? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Matthew.
Matthew, nice to see you.
When I first started practicing the Brahma-viharas, the one that surprised me, and more so than metta, karuna, and
Upeka,
was mudita, because once I began looking at the quality of each one of them, I realized how many times I'm surrounded by joy, and my immediate response would be resentment. And once I was able to recognize it, it was immediately transformative. I remember how I used to like envy if I saw somebody with like a real beautiful, healthy head of hair. I didn't even go, I don't do this to strangers. I go, you have great hair. I hate you. And just to be able to recognize that and let go of it. And what was so surprising was just as soon as I was able to recognize it, it just came to quite easily. And the other thing about the Brahma-viharas, at least the way, because they talk about the four divine abodes or the four immeasurable minds. I think my understanding is Vihara were like little huts that when people would go on pilgrimages, that it was a place for people to rest along the way. And so anyway, I like calling, I like that idea of abodes, abodes and refuges along the way.
Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, and then we're that for each other, right? We're these refuges for each other. That's why it's so lovely to see your face, to see other familiar faces, and then the no face. Even though I haven't met you, the Buddha nature that each of you have tapped into, right? That we can be that for each other. I wonder, the Joe Good, I listened to the talk, and so I have what I call, and it's only a couple times a year, phantom hair days. I used to have a big head of hair too. And that practice that Joe, I didn't see it, I just listened to the podcast, right? But, the brushing with the dominant hand, So that was such a beautiful practice, and I just bringing that continuity of practice as a term, and that moving. So Matthew, you were talking about, it's like it's moving through. That's such quite often I think we'd sit through it, but I think I lean toward more having that energy move, somehow move it. And it's moving from home to home. That's an aspect of it, right? So thanks. Okay. Oh, you're going first.
Really?
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Gary. I appreciate your comments about how resentment was your way into mudita, as was Matthew's, it sounds like, and was mine. Pema Shudran was the one who introduced me to the four practices, and she calls them the four heavenly mind states. And I knew right away that the one I was going to have difficulty with was mudita. In fact, I had some pride around being able to have compassion. I had some pride around being able to send love to people, and I had some pride about practicing equanimity, and then I felt like a complete failure. I didn't even want to look at it when it came to mudita, but then I knew. The minute I saw that, I knew that's my practice. That's where I need to go. And Pema teaches she has a mantra that I have just adopted. So, and she teaches, she reminds people to look in the different directions, and to start with self, and to go with spiritual masters, and then to go with friends, and then to go to a special friend, and then to go to a complete unknown person, maybe somebody you saw on the bus, and then to someone who you clearly hate, and then to end with the generals, all beings, all humans, all beings, all of us, all humans, all beings. And I have found that just the practice of saying the words, I can feel this joy, I can feel his joy, may this joy increase, may the love and understanding bring this joy into full blossom. May this joy increase. So I'm in the practice of shifting the brain patterns in my mind so that I can begin to make a contribution to the humanness of all of us. I appreciate your comment about how this is about unleashing humanness. Mm-hmm. It's not about going to a heavenly place. It's about bringing heavenly mindsets into our humanness. Mm-hmm. And one more thing. I noticed one day that after I was saying the mudita practice for somebody I saw on the bus, the next one I went to was Donald Trump in my practice. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed was, I don't know much more about Donald Trump than I know about that guy on the bus. Really. I don't know what's going on in his mind. Mm-hmm. I don't know what makes him the way he is. Mm-hmm. I don't know how he's screwed up. I'm screwed up. Mm-hmm. So I include him every single time.
Wow. Bless you. Yeah.
So, but here's the joy for me of this whole practice is that over time I'm beginning to see some shifting happening in me. Mm. And that's the joy that I am wanting to report.
Yeah. Thanks. Wow, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the heavy weights. Yeah, thank you so much. Another transition you remind me of is sublime states, right? For the Brahma-viharas and the sublime. To be aware too of the sub and up to and lime is like liminal. So up to the limit, like so to see where our limits are from moment to moment as well. Because that's, when you talk about the orange menace, right? That's a heavy, and that's like very a high level of toxicity, yeah? And so to find the limits, and what I hear you saying too is that the limit has expanded, right? And that's like the faith of Buddhism is to see for yourself, and it is. This is the testimony here, and we've all experienced it. Like there is it's immeasurable. Actually, it's immeasurable. And the more we practice skillfully knowing the limits, the boundaries, limits, the more it inevitably grows. Yeah. So thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah. So do we have time? So there's two more. Jim? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
It's okay if we go a couple more.
Okay. Yeah.
Just real quick, you mentioned a number of alternative phrases for empathetic joy at the beginning, and like some of them really reminded me of the ways that I find joy in simple things. What were can you rattle off, like, what were the ones that came to mind?
Yeah, so empathetic was not one I used, but yes. There's sympathetic joy. That's the one I see them, we've seen the most often, huh? And sympathy in our culture, kind of like it's feeling sorry for, but sympathy, I think of the neuroscience term, like the sympathetic nervous system, and it's but even the way I think of that is that we're feeling it together. The feeling together. I think that's why that word sympathy is being used. Altruistic joy. That's the joy of service. And who's serving who,
And I'm trying to, for me, I like what Gary said, but my practice around this has been, can I experience this without it being coupled with pity? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you poor thing. Mm-hmm. Can I have compassion and empathetic joy, but without all these other negative things you talked about invading that, And so it's, that's what I look to. It's how can I have more of the pure form?
Yeah, and so you use the word pure. The path of purification is the pity and the aversion. That's the path. Yeah. So pity is on the continuum of compassion. Right? And I don't prefer the term enemy, like near and far enemy, because I'm not going to fight. This is our humanness, right? And I get pissed. I'm like, it's my birthright to feel what I feel, right?
They call it the imposter. There's the true form and then the imposter.
Yeah, I like opposing. It just and it strengthens it. Yeah, it's not fake. To me, it's all part of because then that activates my perfectionism, and then that ends up suppressing. And that suppression, that compartmentalization, that's the way the mind works. And it's great, very skillful in certain ways. But yeah, to notice that. And it's through that pity that it's on the spectrum of compassion. Yeah. But so good. I love hearing you say that's my practice. So then that ends up being, what's lighting the path. Yeah. May we not be like completely burned or burn everything, but just enough, this tending of these viharas, these fires and these homes, okay.
Bob, real quick, many things you said reminded me of many other things. At the end of your talk, you mentioned the word equanimity. And it brought me back to when I first started coming here and I learned the meaning of the word equanimity. I love the sound of it. I love the meaning of it. And to this day, when I hear the word, it brings a smile to me and relaxation. And I think I'm feeling equanimity when that happens.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and there's the brightness in your face, right? That's the joy. Yeah, that joy that it melts the hardness of that equanimity could hide in, and then it brings it forth. Okay, y'all. Well, thank you so much for your practice, for co-creating the space. I know there's a dedication to merit, so I'm gonna leave it to, that tradition. Yeah.
Yes, there is a.
Yeah.
Okay, so now's the time for, thank you again, Mom.
Thanks, Jim.
And now's the time for announcements.
I wanted to mention, I posted this on our mail group or Facebook group, but right now in the Castro, at one of the galleries there's this wonderful exhibition all on Tanka art from this world-renowned artist who is in the Mustang region of Nepal. And they're paintings, framed art, not just the wall hangings, really vibrant stuff, really worth seeing. It's on for a few more weeks. It's arthousesf.com. And the other reason I want to mention it is he's also giving free talks where he goes into depth about the artist and his process and the natural materials and how he makes them and this whole region of Nepal that inspires his work. So there's like today there's one at 1 o'clock and 4 p.m. And then there's other things on the schedule. But if you visit that website, I brought the email so you can just kind of browse it out there. But I'm going to be going at 4 and very worthwhile. It's beautiful stuff.
Other announcements?
I'm the host. I want to acknowledge that we occupy the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone people, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula and who were good stewards of this land. So please stay and enjoy the company of the Sangha. There are refreshments and hot water for tea. If you use a cup, please wash it with soapy water. I think it's dry, or I can take care of it. You just put it in the sink. I'll go around with the dining bowl to accept contributions. Your generosity is appreciated, and we suggest donations of $10 to $20. That will help the Sangha meet expenses like the gallery for speakers, rent, and the quarterly newsletter, which is mailed mostly to people in prison. There's a newcomer sign-up on the credenza. If you want to be included and receive our membership directory, please come out. And then some people go to lunch after the meeting, and everybody's welcome to do that, and they meet around 12:30 at the door.
Thank you.
And today is newsletter mailing day, so hopefully we can get a good group of possibly 10 people that will help fill the envelopes, put the stamps on, the labels on, and then I'll take it to the post office.
Great. And next week, our speaker will be Bill Weber, who is also here today, Senior Vipassana Practitioner, graduate of Spirit Rock's Community Dharma Leaders Program. He has 25 years of extensive retreat practice and currently practices at home with his husband or sits with a small group of gay men. He is also a documentary filmmaker, video editor, whose latest projects are To Be Takai, The Untold Tales of Armistead Maupin, and Hallelujah Leonard Cohen, A Journey of Song. So we'll look forward to hearing from Bill next week. Thank you. Now it's time for
I have one announcement before next week. So tomorrow, Monday, at East Bay Meditation Center, there's a fundraiser. A woman, and I can't think of her name right now, but she wrote a book about James Baldwin. So it's The Fire Next Time, I think is the name of the book. And so it's an event happening tomorrow evening at East Bay Meditation Center in Oakland. It's hybrid, yeah. So it looks great. If I said her name, you would know her. It's like a hyphenated last name. I just can't think of it right now. She's a scholar practitioner. And should be great.
And did you want to use your own dedication? Or should we use that?
I love your all, yeah. There's a mudita part in it that maybe, yeah.
By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness, which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all members.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.